If you could go back and talk to Tyler, who was training for numbers alone, chasing strengths, strength, feeling unanchored, what would you tell him now about Tyler?
I would tell him I would be very proud of where current Tyler is, just because I think he's not just living for numbers in the gym, but for something bigger. And I think it gives me a lot of passion and a purpose to wake up every morning and fortunately have that. So I would just tell him that even if you are in a dark place now, like your future self is going to be so much better off, and that there is a way out of it. And it is through community building, and it is through pursuing larger things outside of yourself. Because I've been, like I said, I've been in ruts before. I've been in fitness burnout where you don't want to even attempt to get on the treadmill and walk anymore or do anything because it's monotonous and it's terrible, right? So I've been down that road, and I think there's just such a better path that we can tread if you really broaden your horizon. So I would just say the future you is going to be really impressed. You should be impressed with the future version that you're becoming, even if it was a struggle to get to where you are. And it's never ending in a sense, though, because I don't want to just rest on my laurels now, because I want to see Triumphant grow and become so much more than what it is now. But I still want to be, in a sense, content with the path and how I've gotten here. But I would always say that there's, like you said, a way to accelerate that if you take that on earlier.
Welcome, everyone. This is your boy, Michael Rashad Yerby. You are here with us on the Zenroku Podcast Network, and we're about to get things started. Let's go. What is up, everyone? This is your boy, Michael Rashad Yerby. Welcome to Unfiltered Fridays. And I have a special guest on the Zenroku Podcast Network. We are get to it, a real person who turned breakdowns into breakthroughs. Tonight, we got a powerhouse guest, Tyler Smith, an Ironman, a performance PT with the Air National Guard and founder of Triumph Fit Challenge. But beyond the titles, this man who hit every physical milestone, only to realize none of that matters without meaning. Tyler rebuilt his philosophy, rewrote the rules, and started training for something deeper. Tonight, he's here to show us that the strongest bodies are nothing without a stronger why. So let's welcome Tyler Smith to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. Really appreciate the opportunity.
No problem, man. You are simply amazing, and I can't wait to get into it. As we about to, I'll just say, for everyone that started watching the show, getting in, chat is open. If you got questions for our guests, please make sure you drop it in the comments. That's on Facebook, that's on Twitter, that's on LinkedIn, that's on YouTube, everywhere that this platform and Twitch. If you go in the comments right now and drop a question in, we'll make sure to get that and pass it along as we go through this conversation. So I thank you guys for being here. You could be anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here on the Zenroku Podcast Network on Unfiltered Fridays, where we have professionals that come and tell their story, that teach us more than just what I guess they did to be successful, but what they're doing to stay current in their minds, their body, wholeness, and then just tell their story and all. So I am so happy to have Tyler here. I want to get right into it, Tyler. You opened up on one of your blog posts with the line that you said, I thought this was it. Strength, speed, power, and your physique. And we'll start there. What made you realize that even after hitting those numbers, 1,000-pound lift, the Ironman finish, you still felt empty? What was that?
That's a great question. I mean, that is what sparked the Triumphant Challenge, a little passion project that I'm now in the process of evolving beyond myself and in the community around me. And it did start out of a want of a constant chasing after these different physical bucket list items that I could do. Everything was just bigger, faster, stronger. And I thought that was the path to fulfillment and to getting where I wanted to be. And I did learn a lot about myself in that process. But there's always going to be, the next mountain. After you climb one mountain, you can see all the others that you want to now climb, right? And it is a little bit lonely on your own personal mountain. Not that I was on the top of human achievement or Olympian or gold medalist or anything. I couldn't imagine what it's like to be Michael Phelps and win, 8 straight gold medals. And then where do you possibly go from there? But my
Mhm.
own, achievement mountaintop, I had kind of hit a lot of those things. I realized, that there was going to be this ever progression. It's almost like a hedonic treadmill where you get what you think you want, and then there's
Yeah.
immediately 10 things that replace it. It's like you cut off the Hydra's head, and
Mhm.
even more heads are suddenly appearing. That's when I realized, this is late in 2023, I want to say. This is kind of the first time I really had this realization that I was going to hit a point where I died, and it wouldn't matter what my mile time was. It's not going to matter that I did an Ironman. It's not going to matter, all these different individual achievements. There would be nobody at my funeral because I would have cut out so many relationships to get to that, self seeking pattern and self seeking, goal sheet, rap
Mhm.
sheet, that it wouldn't matter when I ultimately passed from this earth. So, Triumph became a way to now get other people along the path with me to either start the motivation to have something to train for with the larger purpose, which is giving back to your community around me. So there's a big philanthropic effort with half of the entry tickets going towards a relevant charity. It's built around 7 different events that I do every year. So there's some kind of historical reason for the challenge, a physical challenge, and then a financial donation to a relevant cause. So this is a good way to get people mobilized if they haven't been interested in just the vanity of challenges or vanity of pursuing physicality. If they're more interested in the historical aspect, or if they're more interested in giving back aspect, or the community aspect, I think it's a good way to it's a better thing to hang your hat on than just another medal at a Spartan event or something like that.
Now you're 100% right, and it's like, man, like that that realization that, hey, man, I can go today, and I really haven't made those
Yes.
connections. But I got a question for you. Is there a trade off because you got those benchmarks, right? Because you
Yes.
had to be so resilient, so laser focused in,
True.
and then now you're realizing that I didn't take anybody with me. What
Right.
like does that come with sacrifice now that you do those 7 events? And now you
Yeah.
can't train as tough as you used to, but you're bringing a lot of people on that never, I guess, seen a journey when it comes to fitness
Right.
and health and everything else that comes into it.
Yeah, that is a fantastic. That reminds me of a Thomas Sowell, a famous economist, that he said there is no solution. There's only trade-offs, and he was speaking about the economy, at large, and all that kind of stuff. And I see what you're saying exactly, because there's another, quote. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right. So there is the trade-off of my training. I was literally just reflecting on this. Like this week, I was like, wow, my training is a lot easier than it has been previously. Like if you look back, whatever, 12 months.
Yeah.
And that's just because I have such a different focus. Like I would rather than training 4 hours a day I was, training to hit a 5 minute mile and a 315-pound front squat at the same time, the same day. So rather than training 4 hours a day, I train like maybe 1 hour a day, and I enjoy it more. And then
Mm,
I'm really obsessed with also the minimal effective dose, the MED,
mm,
right? Of most things, because I like to be a jack of all trades, master of none. I think there's just so many different avenues in life and paths that we can walk down. I would rather, be top 20% in 10 disciplines than the top 2% in any one discipline, if you know what I mean. So
mm,
I do a little bit of jujitsu now, and I do some lifting, and I do some running, and I do all these different kinds of things. And it keeps me, able to stay well rounded in that sense and not
yeah.
be just so, lifting and fitness focused in one specific discipline. But you're
Mhm.
absolutely correct, Michael, that there is a trade off in that my VO2 could be a 70 rather than a 64. And maybe that's
Yeah.
the trade off I'm willing to make to bring a community of people along with me on this path. That slight reduction in VO2 max. Yeah.
Question. So, what transformation have you seen in your community bringing people along who probably never did anything when it comes to fitness at all? And now you're like, hey, I'm leading. I wouldn't even say maybe
Yeah.
leading is a strong word, right? Maybe
Sure.
you're, I guess, a conductor of
Yeah.
change, right? So how does that
Yes. This just happened, this last challenge. So the last challenge I just had was a Cesar Chavez tribute.
uh
And apparently, if you want to be a legacy and a hot shot in the world, you have to march and you have to go long distances. So the first challenge I did in around Martin Luther King Jr. was a 54-mile run walk in 54 hours, because he did a 54-mile march in 1965 for the Voting Rights Act from Selma to Montgomery. So you got to go distances, right? And so Cesar Chavez, what he did in the 1960s, 1966, during the Delano grape strike
Mhm.
and protest was to increase farm workers' wages from $1.25 to $1.40. And this was all to get better working conditions. They didn't have bathrooms on the field, none of that kind of stuff. There was no unions in the 60s. So Cesar Chavez marched from Delano, California to Sacramento, the capital, to get eyes on this national movement. And so to honor that, I do a 2.8 mile farmers carry where you're holding weights and you're doing a specific distance. So every challenge I have is some kind of historical tie into a physical legacy that someone else before me did to honor the day of rest that we get. So it was a 2.8 mile farmers carry, half your body weight, and I had somebody that had never farmers carried before. This was this girl Stephanie, and she signed up for the challenge, and she's like, none of my friends believe that I can do this. Like, they're all laughing at me when I signed up for this, and she's telling them about it. I do have a silver division, which is a 2.8 kilometer carry with a quarter of your body weight. So there's tiered levels of the challenge. But so she signed up for the silver division, and all of her friends thought there's no way she could do it. She's not normally a lifting and gym culture person,
Mhm.
but she showed up, and there's about 10 of us that day and about another 10 that supported it in terms of just cheering us on, and through the power of the crowd and everybody there, she was able to do it. So she got her little certificate of triumph that I made, and I'm going to make commemorative challenge coins for everybody that finishes as well. So that was a really good instance of seeing somebody that had never taken on this kind of thing before, never thought they were potentially capable of it, and
Mhm.
then she made a really good friend as well. So I had different groups of my friends kind of meeting in the park at the same time and doing the challenge. So it was cool to see, like what you said, an orchestration of different friend groups taking on the same combined challenge and to honor the
Mm.
legacy of people behind us. So it can be done, and it comes from people that you wouldn't think would be prepared to do it. But I think when you have the Nietzsche quote is, if there's a big enough why, you'll find the how. Basically, you'll find how to get through something if you have a big enough why to motivate yourself to do it. So Stephanie was able to push through, and it was a cool time seeing her do it and so well.
That's cool. So were you always like this? I mean, you so far you just you spoke like at least 4 or 5 quotes that I'm very familiar with as well. Game recognized game when it
Right.
comes to someone who has that mental capacity, that mindset, especially in tough situations. And it seems like you have built a mindset for change. So how did that all come about?
I would say I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's why I love being here with you, Michael. I listen to so many podcasts. I'm a big podcast head, a lot of books, all that kind of stuff. And so there are certain things I like to keep. I keep a running list of quality quotations on my notes app on my iPhone. So I always have a running string of things, and even some longer passages. I think it's nice to memorize. It's such a rare thing to memorize things in the modern age because we could chat GPT and Google everything, which is,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what's
Yeah.
happening. But it's nice to have like one or two things in just the memory bank. So if I have, part of Invictus, the poem memorized, or the Man in the Arena speech from Teddy Roosevelt. So those are some of the things I can kind of lean on when I'm really going through a hard struggle or something in my own life. But I do try to encompass a lot of different things through a maximum of a quote where you can really get it codified into a very small sentence, right? And you can have a very powerful interface with somebody else, especially if they know who the author is or that's their favorite author or something else, right? So I think it's just through a lot of reading, podcasts, and my own self development journey that I can pull those out. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. You said uh this line when I was researching you, this line really hit me hard. And you was like, you said I was never training a proper philosophy for living. And I was like, yo, dang, that is so true. Like, we train for certain things, but a philosophy, to actually start living. Like, man, what does that even look like? And how do you explain it to someone who's thinking the gym is about reps and macros, right?
Right. No, 100%. And again, that's not necessarily a wrong path because I think if that's what gets you started down, fitness for your own sake, I think that's a useful endeavor. Sometimes you kind of have to go from vanity to then performance to then
Yeah.
purpose. And I'm kind of at the purpose stage right now. Like I'm not as preoccupied with, hitting exact macros like you said or having a six-pack year round, that kind of thing. But I'm not always necessarily training for purpose or for performance. Sometimes it is more about like the purposeful events and giving back to your community. So I think it's a spectrum that we're all kind of walking down. Another quote for you is the unexamined life is not worth living from Socrates.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's important too, just because I had, like you said, I had been training my body, but not training a philosophy in terms of why am I training my body, right? What am I ultimately trying to do? How am I benefiting other people through my fitness? And is there a way to do that? Like, is that a purpose, or can that be my purpose of having, a strong and fit body
Yeah.
to be of value to my community? So if there is a disaster, a natural disaster, I could go run into a building and lift the couch up to go free somebody, my neighbor, from a fire or something like that. So you really never know what life can throw at you. And I think having your own, discipline in your physicality to be able to interface with the world to then help other people is what does kind of give it more meaning than just going through 3 sets of 10 reps at the gym on a Friday. So
Nah, true, trust me, I'm totally with you. Like, my why for me is that, I have 4 kids,
yeah.
my wife is pregnant with our 5th, so
Wow.
my goal is, because I know I got 1 son and, right now 3 daughters, and hopefully
Right.
this is the other son, so we can
Yeah.
be,
You don't know yet? You don't know?
yeah,
We'll
don't know
find
yet,
out.
don't know yet. So we're trying to figure that out. And my why for going to the gym is because I didn't want to get beat up by my son one day. I know that's
That's love. I love that,
but
dude. I thought
because
you were
I
gonna
can
say
just
like to
imagine.
see
I
them
go,
graduate or to see
yeah,
them get
yeah, he in
married.
high
Like,
school.
I don't want to get beat up. That's all it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and no, not saying nothing bad. What I'm trying to say is that, he's not gonna outdo me,
Right.
in his teenage years. Maybe when he's
Right.
20 and 30, that's when, I give it up then, you know?
Was there a
I
time in
just
your life where you kind of surpassed your own father if you knew your father, like physically, like you felt you
yeah.
could take it? Okay.
Well, I was really big in basketball as a kid, and me and my dad used to play basketball all the time.
Yep.
And then when I got like, 12, 13 years old, I was able to give it to my dad.
Nice. I love that.
And
I
then
love
from
the
there,
passing
he
of the
never,
torch.
yeah, yeah, he never played basketball.
That's hilarious. That
He
is so funny.
never played
Yeah.
basketball again. So that's why I always did.
You
Instead of the
retired
chance.
your
So
dad's basketball ambitions. Respect, Michael. I respect that. Yeah. You retired him. That's incredible.
you called yourself the chief challenge officer
Yeah.
from TriFit. That's more than just a job title for you, right?
Mm,
It sounds like a mission.
yeah.
Why is the challenge such a central part of your philosophy? And what role has voluntarily, these hardships played in shaping who you are today?
You're very good at this podcast thing, Michael. You ask
Oh,
very
no,
good
no.
questions, man. I don't know where you're getting these questions, but these are very like you're digging into the bio. You know exactly where I've been, where I'm doing. Like you're very good at this, man. You're very good. Chief Challenge Officer. I do like that moniker because it's different than CEO, Chief
Yeah,
Executive Officer, right? It's a little bit more. I don't take myself really that seriously as much as I've got a doctorate in physical therapy. I've done a lot of things, but I don't ever call myself Dr. Smith, or I can never do that. Or most PTs call themselves Dr. First name, so Dr. Tyler, if I did anything. But I just like to be more kind of like, don't take myself as seriously. So Chief Challenge Officer is a different, moniker to give myself. And I think it does get the point across because like you said, I think I am obsessed with challenges and the idea of treating life like an experiment, right? So we're all here for one go through as far as I can tell. And we have with that one life the ability to expand. I think we're all here for progression is a major focus of I think the purpose of my life and to see that through. So I think I do that. I do that form of expansion through experimentation, through challenges, through challenging my level of comfort and seeing if I can pursue through difficulties. And when it does get hard, that's really when, your true display of character is on, the world stage. So I think challenges can define a lot of interesting things about us.
Mhm.
And I just like pursuing those because like I said, it's not when it's easy, it's when it's hard that really matters in life. So I'm always trying to find whatever the challenges is. And currently that challenge is entrepreneurship and trying to learn sales copy and marketing and learning Canva and how to design a website and how to market myself and public speaking. Those all things are instrumental skills to have as a solopreneur. So that's my current challenge is in my newsletter I'm going through like a 34-step business challenge checklist from the book $1 Million Weekend, Noah Kagan, and it's perfect because it's very meta. So I'm telling my readers how to do physical challenges while I'm doing the business challenges through this book. That's business development book. So there's another author that said like all businesses are just ways to mask a self-development goal. So
Yep.
That's like it's kind of the microcosm of self-development is starting a business. So I do find challenges just a way to clarify through the chaos a specific target with a end date or with a defined goal that you can, pursue. And it's given me a lot to work towards and to stay passionate about life.
So, question, you having your doctorate, why don't you use the title more often? Did you find it that it doesn't open as many doors as you thought, or you just decided that you want somebody to judge you for you, not what your title is?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's just a false sense of humility and PTs have a weird because we're not medical doctors. We have doctorates of physical therapy. So it's as far as I can go clinically to treat patients. I work for the Air National Guard as a physical therapist doing rehab and their kind of return to sport and all that kind of stuff. So but again, there's I think it's just a weird we don't have the recognition necessarily in society and that physical therapists currently occupy. And so I don't know. I just come from a family where my brother's a sports medicine physician, sports med doc, and dad is a firefighter paramedic, mom's a ER nurse, and so I'm just kind of in this world, and I see so many people that feel like they have harder jobs than me. I don't feel like I need to broadcast it that much, but that's a it's probably more about like intrinsic characteristic to myself than it is to like the broader world. I'm just more like hesitant and shy to be like, oh, look at me, I'm a doctor, like call me doctor, or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's always the plain test. If someone was having a heart attack and they say, "Who's a doctor?" I wouldn't raise my hand because I'm not gonna save that man's life. So if I can't do the airplane test, I'm not gonna broadcast it to the
Yeah,
world.
I got you. I got you. It's one thing you said, and I'd like to go into it. As the lead physical therapist or PT for Human Performance Optimization Team for the Air National Guard, you're unique. You're uniquely qualified, has a unique position with performance and purpose, and for people to meet. Right? How do you
Mhm.
help soldiers and high performers find that balance between mission and mindset?
Yeah, the world I live in is totally mission driven. I mean, these guys have taken an oath to protect the US and uphold the Constitution. So everyone that I've interfaced with on my job in Tacoma at Camp Murray is just dedicated to that kind of mission lifestyle and service lifestyle. So to differentiate that between what was the second part of that question?
Mission and mindset. So how
Mission
do
and
you balance
mindset.
that between mission and mindset?
Yeah, I think that does become extremely important because, sadly, a lot of these guys have come back from deployments. And I was just talking to somebody yesterday whose his mindset is all over the place. He's on anti-anxiety medications and all these kind of things because of the trauma that he's been, kind of forced to see throughout his career. So I think just getting them smaller wins, just trying to see what the biggest or the smallest first step that they can take and making it more communal. So I do a Track Tuesday workout with all the guys on base here. So I think having a way to get out of their own personal ruts by coming alongside their brothers and basically getting all to a specific location and doing something hard together, I think is how you can improve their mindset. And it's kind of, again, their mission is they're all mission driven, but they can kind of have a fluctuation in the mindset when so much of the world is placed on their shoulders at a young age. But I'm really just trying to help him get back to the track and do something hard with people that he loves and kind of get those small wins stacked on top of each other. And every fourth week we do a fun track workout and guys can do whatever they kind of want or have input in terms of what the workout should be. So it is a challenge when they have a lot of significant traumas and that kind of thing. But I've found that there's usually some small hurdle that or small win that you can give them that can
Mhm.
kind of start them down the right path for sure.
Man, that's so freaking cool. I
Hmm.
like that, man. So,
Hmm.
has your work with military informed the way that you see that should lead for civilians through Triumph Fit should live? And what I mean by that is like you see how military is like mission driven, but there's like you said, a weight, a honor that they share right amongst themselves.
Hmm.
Are there lessons from the servicemen and women that you see that can translate into the gym and also into life in general when it comes to as you train the civilians in Triumph Fitness?
Yeah, I think a big thing I've noticed there's such a high emphasis on people that have come before, the standing on the shoulders of giants and the kind of legacy. There's so many challenges, and I do the Murph every Memorial Day. So
Mhm.
that's to honor, Michael P. Murphy, who died in Afghanistan in 2005. Well, he was a lieutenant at the time. So I think there's a lot of those type of fallen service members that are then, placed appropriately on a pedestal as something that we should never forget. And I think that in the general population, we do kind of lose that kind of understanding of history. I think as a military focused person, you do kind of appreciate history in a different way.
Mhm.
And you're always fighting to, in a sense, maintain the legacy of your culture, right? You're fighting to protect the American way. And so you have to appreciate the history of good and bad of what America is, right? We all know the nastier side of it, but we're all in this country for a reason. We could be
Right.
in Iran, we could be in Iraq, Afghanistan, all these countries, and we're not doing that too often, right? We're staying in America. So I think the history of America and people that are in the military is a bigger appreciation of the historical legacy that comes with it. And I
Uh-huh.
think that is something that through Triumphant, I'm hoping to reinstill in the general population through the 7 challenges that I do, everything from MLK to Cesar Chavez, Memorial Day Murph, Juneteenth, 4th of July, September 11th, and Veterans Day. Those are the 7 challenges. And so I think we don't want to lose that sense of, thankfulness that we should have. And why do, not just to go out and spend a day drinking with the boys on the beach or whatever it is, right? But
Yep.
to understand who died to get us this day of rest, right? What exactly did they do? So that's the
Yeah.
legacy I hope that Triumph can kind of combine with the general population.
And we see that you're very popular at it. And it lets me into my next question. Like, well, let's talk about legacy a little bit. You
Mm.
said every challenge isn't just a number, but a chance to build a legacy that will outlast me. How do you define legacy now? And what roles does fitness play in helping you create that legacy?
Yeah. Well, I don't have 4 children like you, Michael. So this is my baby. Okay. TriFit is my baby. And that's what I want to see grow. I mean, ultimately, I would like to have a kid at some point, and that would be another kind of. I think we're all looking for, all humanity is essentially a pursuit of some kind of legacy project. I think as much as I would say it doesn't, we don't, I shouldn't care about that, because when I'm dead, I'm effectively dead, and there's not going to be anything that will outlive me in that sense. But we all look for something, some kind of way. Often we do it through kids, through a genetic legacy. Your genes are literally passed down to the next generation. But there's other ways to do it. Some people just start businesses and foundations and those kind of nonprofits and whatever it is. So my definition of legacy, that's a very good question. I would need Webster's up in front of me. I think my personal definition is just a legacy would be something that I fostered. It would be community driven for sure, because I want it to be larger than just who I am as a person. So it'd
Mhm.
be something where people gather in remembrance of me or remembrance of something that I created to improve upon their own lives. And I'm doing it through the improvement of their physical fitness. You can have several different ways to have a legacy, but that's the one I've chosen through Triumphant. And so if I could see the legacy of people gathering in large groups to do something hard to improve their fitness for others around them in the community, I think that's the ultimate legacy that I would like to pursue.
That's pretty cool. I like that. So many people are listening and caught in the loop, right? Of chasing the PR, and then the
Mhm.
body goals, and then the
Yeah.
finish line, and still trying to, feel, I guess, fulfilled, but still feel unfulfilled in a lot of ways. What would you say to the highest achiever who silently is burning out, going through that?
Yeah, that's me talking to myself 2 years ago. Yeah. I would say there's still hope, man. There's still hope, because at a certain stage you will realize that, there's always bigger, faster, stronger. And I don't know how to beat it to your head sooner than there's just always, you can always put more, pounds on the bar.
Mhm.
At a certain point, what's the difference between a 510-pound deadlift versus a 515-pound deadlift if it takes you 5 months to, achieve that? I don't really understand the constant pursuit of that goal. I think at a certain point you're just chasing numbers, like you said, and there's no longer lasting impact. So if I had to
Mhm.
talk to those people directly, I'd say there's always hope. There's always something that you can be doing. In terms of, if you're in a really dark place, the most immediate thing you can do is just compliment a stranger. Walk down the street, look somebody in the eye, and shake their hand, wave at them, say, I like your shoes, or whatever it is, right? Just start some kind of meaningful connection with people around you. And I think that's a big way to get out of your own head. And if you become so engrossed in your own stats and your numbers, then you do kind of silence your world. And I had been silencing a lot of the relationships around me. And I think the longer I live on this earth, the more I'm realizing that relationships and human connection is really the purpose of why we're here, right? So you could chase all the things you want in the gym at an individualistic level, but I don't think you're really going to pursue, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. And that might be the adoration of others when you could have got that admiration from others just by being a good person and trying to see them, progress as well, not just do it in your unselfish ways, right? So
Yeah.
there's always hope and there's always a way to connect to others. It doesn't have to be through, just chasing numbers. It could be about improving the conditions of people around you as well.
You said something very pivotal. You said, if any advice I can give is just compliment a stranger. And
Mm,
I found that so riveting because how many times have you seen someone? And I would say my wife does it best, right? Like
yeah,
we be at Walmart or Sam's Club or something like that. And my wife is naturally, I guess, a people person.
yeah.
And I tell her she is. And she's like, no, I'm not. I said, I know exactly when you're about to open a conversation up for people because we'll be in
Mm,
an aisle, right? And we'll be talking
yeah.
just a private conversation between me and her, and it's not as loud, and then she'd be like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe." I said, "Oh, now you open up for everybody else." She's like, "What you mean?" And then somebody come like, "Yeah, girl, that's so high." And then they actually start a 20-minute conversation from that. And it just reminded me, like when you
Yeah.
said compliment a stranger or have a conversation with a stranger, it's like that's how you make people become friends and that's how you
Yeah.
build those bonds, those relationships. Because my wife is very good at talking to people in the sense of like it start off like, kind of nebulous, right, in the conversation. And then she'll just like start impacting people in a
Mm,
sense where they're telling her about their day and things that happen in their life. And she's giving you some, really good advice on it. And I was wondering, you with these different challenges, as people start to do these challenges, do you have that kind of relationship with individuals?
yeah, I think my initial foray into podcasting was actually called Tyler Talks to Strangers, where I'd walk up to random people at the beach or the park in Santa Monica where I grew up and have 10-15 minute conversations and just kind of see what people would tell you, and within 2 minutes of knowing you is really astonishing. And so I respect your wife for doing that, and I think it is a kindness that we can give to our fellow human to take them seriously, to listen, to give them the time of day, and to just try to understand their pains as well. And I think through Triumphant, I have seen, like, when I saw different groups of my friends all doing the same challenge together, and I saw James and I saw Justin. Justin was just there to support. He didn't even do the challenge, but he had backpack on with chalk in it and waters for everybody. And James was doing the weight with kettlebells and everything. And so they kind of paired off and they were doing the loop around the golf course or the soccer field together. And that was really cool because they didn't know each other right before that day started. So it's always nice to see, like they say, every stranger or your best friend started as a stranger at some point. So who knows if they're still talking or lifting now together as gym buddies. So that was really cool to see, and I like seeing that kind of the randomness of combining different friend groups at the same event. So that is a specific example that did come to mind when I saw how much they bonded on that Cesar Chavez Bringer of the Bells event for sure.
That's pretty cool, man. Train for purpose, not just performance. It's a triumphant motto. What does that mean when someone walks into your program for the first time? Is it a
Mm.
mindset first or is it a movement second?
Ooh, I think it's a mindset. I think it's a mindset first, and then they kind of build from that. They kind of understand a little bit more about the mission when they first kind of understand. Because another one I have is give back, never give up, and so that's another big phrase I think for slogan for Triumphant. There's a lot that I like. There's so try it, get fit, triumphant, give back, never give up. Chase purpose, not performance. So I do have a lot. I should probably narrow it down, but I think it does start with that mindset first. And when people kind of first interface with that, then they kind of understand the broader mission. So I forget there's a meme about that, like he understood the task or something. When someone does something really well, it's like he understood the task, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I try to get them on that page first about why we're doing this. And as soon as they can kind of click with that, like, okay, this isn't just about me. And I think we do have, so many things that we could be blessed with in America. And I think obviously financial resources is one of them.
Mhm.
And I got really, sparked up about philanthropy in about 2019 when I watched a TED Talk from Peter Singer called The
Mhm.
Life You Can Save, or it's a book that he wrote, The Life You Can Save. It's all about give directly and how you can, even with a small amount of money, right, impact the third world in significant ways through either microloans or just just direct cash transfers, and that people in those countries can really benefit from starting their own businesses and independence rather than, start these bloated large organizations in these other third world countries. If you literally just trust them with the cash that they need, they can go buy the food that they need to support their family and all these things. And so that was in 2019 when I really got the philanthropy bug. And then I was like, how can I combine fitness with that? And so that was the kind of training for the purpose, and the giving back aspect of what Triumph It is today. Is largely inspired by Peter Singer's TED Talk
Man,
about the
that's
life we
crazy.
can save.
That's wild. That's wild. That's wild. So, as you did these challenges and you talk about people pairing off and talking and people who were strangers now becoming, I guess, somewhat of close friends, right? I can say that. Is that
Yep.
safe to say?
Yep.
What kind of emotional and spiritual transformation have you seen from your clientele and just people in general once you let them go chasing, not the aesthetics, but start chasing purpose, I guess?
Yeah, I think we're all on a spiritual journey. It's one of my favorite open-ended questions to ask people. I stole it from one of my friends, George. He's of the Baha'i faith, which is a very
Mhm,
like universal. They're not very dogmatic in any of their beliefs, and that's
mhm.
a different group that I go to out in Tacoma as well, where you meet up at libraries and you have it's called Meaningful Conversations, and you just talk to all different people of different walks of life. And his always, favorite way to start a conversation is, "What has been your spiritual journey?" And I think we're all on some kind of path like that. But I would say it's a little too early to tell with Triumph It. I think I've only had really one in person where like multiple people were doing it at the same time. This 2025 is the first year of doing more of them in person. I
Mhm.
started it midway through 2024, but it was really all just kind of virtual and just me doing the thing, right? And then trying to encourage other people to do it. But 2025 is really the first year start to finish where I'm trying to bring it to the community, and I have just starting to have free training camps twice a month now at Wright Park in Tacoma. So I'm trying to start this, more from the ground, I would say
I
properly
gotcha.
in 2025. Yeah, I can't speak too much on the spiritual side or larger focus in that for my participants yet, just because it's only been a really couple events. But that's the ultimate plan, is to see them become more generous, more giving, intentional with how they pursue fitness and their finances maybe, and to see that we don't need to just keep it all for ourselves, and there is a larger community that can benefit from it.
No, 100%. You describe yourself as insatiably curious dude, right? So,
Mhm.
what's something that has been on your mind lately that has nothing to do with gym, but everything to do with your growth?
Oh man, it's kind of gym related, but my latest thought virus, I call it thought virus, 'cause I can't get it out of my head. I also do spoken word poetry, and every Friday on my Instagram at Triumphant Challenge, I do like it's called Fitness History Friday or Fit Story Friday. And so
Yeah.
I always feature some legend basically in the fitness world that has done something that we all thought was impossible. And this was after an episode I wrote, a podcast I wrote, or sorry, poem that I wrote about a man that swam the full distance around the island of Britain. Took 160 days. Ross Edgley did this, and about 2018, I think, is when he did it. He swam. He circumnavigated the entire island. He didn't touch land the entire time. He was on either boats or just swimming, and took about half a year. And so after that, I was like, what? I'm just curious now because I've
Yeah.
when I say I'm curious, I'm really curious about human potential,
Mhm.
human limits. Like the human animal is so incredibly adaptive,
Yeah.
diverse, and just able to overcome the impossible a lot of times, right? And so my next challenge or ultimate challenge, potentially thought virus, is to be the first man to bear crawl across the
Ooh,
United States. So to
yeah.
bear crawl across the country would probably it'd probably take 100 or sorry a year and a half is how I mapped it out.
Like year and a
A year and a half. If I bear crawled roughly 5 miles a day, this would be starting
yeah.
in my hometown of Santa Monica, California, and going to Times Square, New York. And I did about 5 miles a day. That's 5, 6 hours of crawling. That would take about 560 days to go 2,800 miles. And that would be really interesting because if you time it out if I did this, my plan is January 1st, 2028. So if I started January 1st, 2028, roughly 560 days away is July 4th, 2029. So that would be like the stretch goal of like to
Yeah.
finish by the 4th of July, 2029. I know this is absolutely crazy, but if you watch enough documentaries about what humans could do, like this starts to become possible. I don't know. I just did another poem about a man that did a Iron Man in Antarctica. He went all the way down there and he swam in the ocean with obviously, you know, a wetsuit on, and he biked through, I don't know how he did it, the snow, but Anders Hoffman, he did, it's called Project Iceman on YouTube, and it's pretty inspirational. So my thing is like, I would do that. What would the purpose of bear crawling across the US be? It would mostly be to build the brand, right? To put Triumph for sure on the map. Because I almost like if I had to sacrifice a year and a half of my life to cement Triumph as a thing that exists in the culture, um, then that would be worth it. In my opinion, it's the craziest thing ever. But I think that would be worth a year and a half. It would be so painful, and I don't know if I could do it, but I would at least try because the world is always dictated by usually men with just absolutely insane ideas. The Wright brothers, right?
Yep.
Who thought man would ever be in the sky? And now we fly jumbo jets across the Atlantic as we speak all the time, right?
Yep.
So everything in the world is crazy until it's not crazy. And so I think it would be a way to just again kind of re up on the idea that man is a insatiably curious animal that can pursue hard things and do hard things through one man on hands and knees or whatever, crawling across America. It wouldn't be on knees, but hands
Yeah.
and feet, you know, reciprocally bear crawling across the US from LA to New York. So we'll see if that ends up happening. That's a big what if, but I think I'm at least going to try. If I can get any kind of sponsorship in the next 2 years, and I think all I would need basically is like a lot of gloves. Like I would get sponsored by some kind of glove manufacturer, and then a camper van or something to just kind of sleep in every night. But I plan on doing it at least at the start with my dad as well. He's a retired firefighter, 38 years. And we used to just, I really bonded with my dad over long walks.
Yeah.
So when he retired 2011, we would just go for like 2 hour long walks through, you know, down by the beach in Santa Monica. And I think if you're ever trying to learn somebody and how they operate and it's intimidating. A lot of guys need like a third thing to do. You can't just sit and talk, right? You need a some activity you're doing. So me and my dad would just go long walks down the beach in Santa Monica, learn so much about his history and why he is the way he is. And so if I could do part of the challenge bear crawling and he's walking beside me, and then I don't know, we'll kind of make it a whole thing, like a father son story a little bit as
Yeah.
well. But that would be a really meaningful thing to do before he passes as well, because so much of my relationship with my dad, I think, is really just logged in the miles that we've walked in this earth, right? And so
Mm.
before he passes, I think that would be an awesome legacy as well to give my grandkids or whatever, like a documentary about me doing this crazy thing and what the
Yes.
human limit is. And so that's what I'm currently curious about. It is still fitness and gym ish related, but it is to do an epic bear crawl across the U.S.
And that's pretty awesome, and I love what you said also about your father because it reminds me
Mm,
of the relationship I have with my dad. Like,
yeah.
me and my dad was pretty contentious, around, like, 14 to, like, 18
As
years
soon as
old,
you
right?
beat him in basketball, it probably got really contentious. I bet after that, like he didn't like you no more.
He told me what it was. So I went to basic training, graduated
Mhm.
basic training, and then my mom and dad drove out from Miami, Florida, all the way to San Antonio, right?
Uh,
And so I only seen my dad cry before that, maybe once. Once I seen him cry before that.
yeah,
And so my dad was in the car and he just couldn't stop crying. And it was making me uncomfortable because I
right.
was like, I never seen this man cry. And I'm
Yeah,
like, you all right, dad? Chill out. And he like, I'm just so proud of you, you know. And then he goes into his whole thing and he was like, I was so worried about you
wow,
that, I wanted you to be better than me and live
right.
a better life than I did. And so
Mm,
he said, I pushed you so hard because I had a fear that you was, because my mom and dad raised me comfortable.
yeah,
What I mean by that, my mom was a nurse. My dad worked, 14-hour shifts every other day. He worked
okay.
at a bread factory, fixing all the machines.
Oh,
So they brought in a good, comfortable size income. And I didn't say I had it all. I didn't,
mhm,
but I did live comfortably. And so he was afraid that through his hard work, that I lived a comfortable life,
mm,
that I didn't have the drive to do something bigger.
yeah,
And so that's why he was like really so, like digging on me. And so he always like me and his relationship. Every time I go home, we sit, have a beer or
That's
some
awesome.
scotch, and just talk and just chill out. And he always like to talk to me about what's my purpose is, right? So
Hmm.
I love those conversations, and it reminds me as I go into this question: what does a purposeful day look like for you now? As you walk through your daily practices, your physical, your mental, your spiritual, what keeps you aligned?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love all that you said about your father as well. I think I'm very curious about your philosophy and how you're raising your kids, because there is such a balance between giving them like hardships intentionally versus a comfortable life. Like you said, like they're not going to fully develop, I don't think, if they don't have struggle and heartbreak and all these things, right? So I'm just, maybe off air, I'm curious how you're going to kind of raise your kids for that same
Yeah.
purpose. Yeah, my daily a purposeful day to me, I do like to go through. It's not really a morning routine. It's kind of like, say, 7 daily disciplines. I don't necessarily always do them in the morning. I just, whenever I can throughout the day. Like, I haven't even done probably 5 of them today because I took today off work. So it's my routine's a little bit different. But it's typically I'll do some kind of morning stability. So like I've had 2 shoulder surgeries, so I have to do some like 5-minute rotator cuff strengthening stuff, or else I'll have a little bit of shoulder pain. So I do morning stability, like push-ups and reverse flies and scaption and stuff with bands. So I'll do that. I will do a gratitude. So I have a gratitude journal that I fill out every morning or whenever I can throughout the day. I do visualization. So there's an awesome app called futureme.org, and you could send yourself emails into the future for any time period that you want. It could be on your birthday, or
Wow.
it can be 10 years in the future or 5 years in the future. But yeah, I would write that one down, futureme.org, and I will send myself an email into the future, and I'll be like, hey, I'm writing this on this day, and did you hit that challenge? Like, I've written, to myself in 2030, like, did you finish the bear crawl across America, Tyler? Like, how crazy is that? Like, you did that thing, right? I'm already like I'm like manifesting that into the future of like, you did this thing, right? So I write some email to myself in the future every day. So gratitude, visualization, stability, cold exposure. So I just put my face in the sink, maximum cold every morning. It's better than caffeine. I still do caffeine most work days, but I'm not. I do cold plunges if I have access to them, but the cold showers are the hardest. But I can commit to at
It
least
is.
putting my whole head under cold water. So I do cold exposure. I try to have one hard conversation every single day. So that could be like we just talked about, having, complimenting a stranger. That can be
Uh,
talking to somebody I'm dating and say, what are your thoughts on this? And how can I better support you here? Some hard conversation with a coworker or spouse or something, or whatever it is, that really pushes your limits. And then what else do I have? Stretching and sprinting. So I always do a daily sprint. I'm also in the middle of a 5-minute sprint intensity challenge where I do, 3 20-second intervals. I'm trying to do that for 1,000 days. So I'm at like a day 170 right now through that. So I sprint every day, cold, visualization, meditation. I don't think I said meditation yet. So that's one as well. It's like either 1 to 5 minutes. It's nothing significant. It's just a through the Calm app, and try to sit
yeah.
down and make some time for that as well. So that's roughly what my daily habits look like. But a more
Mhm.
purposeful life beyond just a checklist of habits is like I said, connecting with people, making sure I take care of myself with eating healthy, working out, so meal prepping and that kind of thing. I'm doing a whole 30 right now. So 12 days and 11 days into eating, no sugar and all that kind of stuff as well. So eating well, connecting with other people around me, sweating of some kind. I'm a big fan of reading. I think you can learn
Mhm.
so much if you picked up one habit, really, just to read before bed. Helps me kind of
Yeah.
wind down as well, and kind of fall into that dream state and a more relaxed. I should read more fiction. I don't know. You're a huge anime guy, so I know you're all about the fictional world, but I need to do
Yeah.
that a little bit more. I do tend to stick to nonfiction, but it's a good way to empathize with others and to build that. If you can be a great storyteller in that aspect too. So those are my biggest things. But when I have things on the calendar, like my triumphant challenges, or a race, or because I still do every once in a while, like a road race or trail race or Spartan event or things like that. So those are the things that kind of like get me excited as well, and to maintain my habits and routine and stay fit and all those kind of things. So I kind of avoid the overuse injuries, fortunately, by having such diverse challenges. Like this next one, I'm doing a Murph, so it's
Yeah.
a mile run, pull-ups, push-ups, squats, a mile run. So it's a different level of training than I was doing for Cesar Chavez, where you're carrying a lot of weights and a lot of core training. So I tend as a physical therapist to like the diversity of movement that I'm able to do now. And I feel like it will kind of allow me to stay healthier for longer because I'm not just going in and max deadlifting every day when I'm in the gym, right? I have such a different routine based on the time of year, based on what my challenge is going to be. So that's really a long way to say what a purposeful day looks like for me. Yeah.
No, that's perfect, man. That's not bad at all. And I trust me, I take it all in. And
Yeah.
one thing you said you had 2 shoulder surgeries,
Yeah.
like, on the same shoulder?
Same shoulder. Ice hockey related, fighting of all things. Yeah. Was not a good fighter. Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So were you an enforcer or trying to be an
I
enforcer?
was trying to stand out. It was a tournament, and I'd gotten passed over by all these teams and all that kind of stuff. And so, one thing you could do, I'm a defenseman, so you're supposed to be a little bit more physical. So, one thing you can do to stand out is to, drop the gloves. It's instantly a way to get spotlight, right, and to have that effect. But I went down with this guy. I went down to the ice, got up. I wasn't bleeding. I thought I won the fight, and then I couldn't lift my left arm anywhere. So it was dangling by my side, dislocated. So that's what got me into physical therapy. Having rehab and really respecting the physical therapist that I had and all that. This was back when I was 18, very kind of malleable age, and then I went right into grad or to undergrad and then grad school, kind of knowing that I was going to pursue that and try to help other people through that. So again, the interface of healthcare with all my family, kind of essentially being in that as a sports med doc, nurse, firefighter, athletic trainers in my family. So I kind of knew I was maybe on that path, but physical therapy was more my specific speed and discipline rather than my dad's the most chill guy in the world. I don't know how he did 38 years as a firefighter paramedic because that's got to be the most stressful job ever. So I don't know how.
Yes.
But yeah.
And when you have your walks on the beach, you could probably ask him and put it
Yeah,
in the book.
absolutely. He's got to have stories that I don't even can't imagine. So, man, I try to get. There's a really good gift you can give older people, especially, but anybody really. It's called Storyworth, and they send you a
Story worth.
weekly prompt. And if you do 52 prompts, they'll compile it all into a book, and so then you could
Wow.
pass that book down to future generations, right? So I think
Man.
it's called Story Worth. And so I got that from my mom a couple years on her 70th birthday. And so she's been filling that out because that would be nice to pass to our grandkids one day as well. So it's a more
Mhm.
digestible way for, a grandparent to write basically a book in a year. So I should have my dad do that service as well. But he's more of a talker. So I have interviewed them on a thing called StoryCorps. There's an app called StoryCorps, and you can interview loved ones and record it for all time basically. I have recorded both my parents with a long conversation like what we're doing now and just kind of going
Yeah.
through some of those questions, but there's always more to unveil for sure.
Always. I was always taught, and one thing I love about me and my wife, we love to sit down with our elders and just
Mhm.
talk to them. Because one thing we was always taught, and my wife was taught the same thing, which is kind of crazy,
Yeah.
is that when an elder passes away, it's
Yeah.
like a library burning down. And so
Right.
we was always, instilled upon us to talk with our elders, to learn from our elders, because they
Right.
have a lot of wisdom, a lot of stuff, experiences they went through that we won't have to go through,
Yeah.
and it's basically a shortcut to life in some
Yep.
ways, right?
I agree
And
with
so
that.
I always like so trust me, I'm with you on that. So it goes to my final question with you. If you could go back and talk to Tyler, who was training for numbers alone, chasing strengths, have been chasing strength, feeling an anchor, what would you tell him now about Tyler?
I would tell him I would be very proud of where current Tyler is, just because I think he's not just living for numbers in the gym, but for something bigger. And I think it gives me a lot of passion and a purpose to wake up every morning and fortunately have that. So I would just tell him that even if you are in a dark place now, like your future self is going to be so much better off, and that there is a way out of it, and it is through community building and it is through pursuing larger things outside of yourself. Because I've been, like I said, I've been in ruts before. I've been in fitness burnout where you don't want to even attempt to get on the treadmill and walk anymore or do anything because it's monotonous and it's terrible, right? So I've been down that road, and I think there's just such a better path that we can tread if you really broaden your horizon. So I would just say there's the future you is going to be really impressed. You should be impressed with the future version that you're becoming, even if it was a struggle to get to where you are. And it's never ending in a sense though, because I'm not obviously I don't want to just rest on my laurels now because I want to see Triumphant grow and become so much more than what it is now. But I still want to be, in a sense, content with the path and how I've gotten here.
Mhm.
But I would always say that there's, like you said, a way to accelerate that. if you take that on earlier.
No, 100%. So the floor is yours. If you have anything that's going on, tell our listeners where to support you, how to support you, and what way and what possible for you. So the floor is yours,
Absolutely.
sir.
No, absolutely. I really appreciate the time. And like I said, you're an amazing listener, Michael. And I really appreciate the platform to speak here so openly and your questions to make me reflect more deeply on why I'm doing all of this and why I get up every morning. So, yeah, if you want to follow the journey, the website is triumphantchallenge.com. So that's TRIUMFIT challenge.com. So it's a play on triumphant fitness challenge, right? To be triumphant is
Mhm.
to be victorious in a conquest or a conquest in like a contest and to win a hard-earned prize. So I like that word. And then fitness is obviously the tie-in there. So triumphantchallenge.com. Instagram is triumphant_challenge. And I do YouTube as well at triumphant challenge. So those are the main ways that you can interface with me. The next one I have coming up, and for the first 15 participants to sign up, is the Murph Memory Memorial. So again, these are events that I do in person in Tacoma if you're in that area, but they're also virtual. So if you want to grab a couple buddies, go to your own park in, Shreveport, Louisiana, or wherever you happen to be, then you can also, take part in that as well. So this one is to honor, like I said, Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy, who passed away in Afghanistan. And so that's going to be the Murph workout. The twist that I'm adding to it this year is that there's a memory component to it. So it's the Murph Memory Memorial for a reason. And so that's going to be having to memorize roughly a 100-word military speech, poem, whatever really that is significant for you. But I'm going to try to memorize the "We will fight on the beaches" speech from Winston Churchill from like the
Mhm.
1940s. He told
Yeah,
Parliament
that's a
that.
good one.
So we will fight on the beaches, we will fight on land, we will like, kind of all the things about how they're fighting Germany. So that's the speech I'm going to try to memorize. About 138 words. And you can sign up for that at triumphantchallenge.com. And you can find the discount on my Instagram. I'll put a post about that for the first 15 that participates, 15% off. 50% of the profits go to a relevant organization. So in this case, the Murph Foundation for what they're doing as well. So that's how you can kind of participate in the next step of Triumphant. You can always email me at triumphantchallenge@gmail.com if you have other questions or want to connect over a collaboration of some kind if you're in the fitness space as well, or if you want to get into affiliate marketing or anything like that. So that's how you can follow me, how you can support me. This is really starting from the ground up. And so anything you can do to help, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, Dr. Tyler Smith. And I got to say it now.
Yeah, Dr. Tyler Smith. Now you can say it. I
I
get one
appreciate
doctor
it.
off.
I
Of
appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
of
And
course. I really
man,
appreciate it.
good luck on everything you're doing, your journey. And please, everyone out there, please support, support, support. Man, I thank you guys for joining us. It's been another wonderful conversation. All right, guys. Peace.